Welcome to this episode of the Million Dollar Mastermind. I'm Larry Weidel, and before we get started, if you want to know exactly how to win again and again, go to weidelonwinning.com/webinar now to watch something I've put together for you. Now let's get going into this episode of Million Dollar Mastermind. I'm here talking with John Akhoian, and we're getting some real insight to the mind of a winner and how he organizes himself to keep moving forward, stay on track, keep moving forward. And John, thanks so much for taking the time. Thanks for being so generous in sharing how you get yourself organized, how you keep yourself on track. And I've just really enjoyed what you've had to bring so far, and looking forward to hearing what you have to say about, when you wrote the books. There's a phrase, John, called that was formative for me, is you have to be specific to be dynamic. And it's, if you look at it, it can be something that's not really that clear, but somehow people understand it. I understood it, but you've got to know, basically, you're not going to be able to go anywhere in your car until you decide where you want to go. It's no more complicated than that. But the more specific you are, the more in motion you can get. And so, does that ring a bell with you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm definitely very specific on what I want to accomplish, and in what industry I want to accomplish it in. And to me, it's about home services and, building a nationwide brand. And, I know it's going to take a lot of time and effort and focus to doing that, but, I've got very specific outlined goals and how to get there. And I'm not afraid to put the time in or put the risk in to get it done. So I totally agree with you. You got to be specific, and you got to be willing to give it all you got as well.
Well, the thing is that when you write things down, you have to be specific. It's like, what am I going to write down? And the great thing, we'll get into how you got going on writing your books, and you got your course. It's one thing to have an apprentice course. Someone's got to put the course together. And this has everything to do with what we were talking on our last episode about how you start habits, because I went through the same process, John, I've wanted to for decades, but finally, I got my staff to research it. They came up with the best daily journaling app out there. I forced myself to learn how to use it. But what made it work for me was I created these templates. So I have a different thing, it's basically my thinking, meditation, prayer, study, affirmations type thing. I've got all these different things. But when I start my day, the first thing is, I got I call it activate. The first thing I do is activate, which is go through the stretches, the push-ups, sit-ups, this, that, the other. I've got a routine there. And, I'll write that down. My first thing I do is I weigh myself, and then I'll do my activation of the body, wake the body up, use it or lose it. And then I'll go get the coffee and sit down. But I take the thinking is out of it, because I've already prepared in this journal. It's like, I know here's what I'm going to think about, reaffirm, read. I've got selected Bible verses, this whole idea of meditate, sit in a corner and empty your mind and think of nothing, I don't get. But I do understand think. I do understand affirmations. I do understand prayer. I do understand Bible verses, and I do understand principles. And so what I've done is I just took the thinking out of it. And folks, if you're an action person as an entrepreneur, take the thinking out of controlling yourself and set yourself up for success. Like John said in an earlier episode, he has a daily checklist of things he does. So you get to manage yourself like you're going on a vacation, or like you got a project, you got a deadline. The more important the project, the more detail we get on what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. And the more time we spend on the planning. So spend it on getting yourself organized for a great start every single day. And, at the end of the day, have a routine, have it written down, and go to it, and give yourself, one of these things. They asked Jerry Seinfeld, if you want to be a comedian, how do I be a comedian? He said, take out a calendar and spend time every day writing jokes. And he said, when you're through, put a red line through the date. And he said, your idea is every calendar has an uninterrupted red line. So you know that you spent time every day writing jokes. And that's what this thing is. This diary will tell me, it's like 208 days in a row of without breaking the cycle, And so manager, you can get, I think that most entrepreneurs are so busy putting out fires and, running from the tyranny of the urgent, that they never take control of their life and say, no, how do I want to start the day? And I'm going to write that down. I'm going to put myself, give myself a little schedule. So when the day I start the day, I don't have to remember it. And it's just like, John, when you're in sales, you don't, when Monday comes, you want to know where you want to already have your plan for that week. And you don't want to wake up on Monday morning and say, well, what are we going to do today? Because otherwise it's going to be a wasted day. And that's what it is with planning yourself. So when I say those things, does that ring bells to you?
Yeah, it does. I purposely actually plan on Sundays. I plan my entire week. So I have this in my journal. I have a weekly planner, and it's all broken out in 4 segments. And one of them is, my business. One of the segments is cleanups, and the other one is my personal. And I have an investment side of it as well. So I make sure that I have at least a half a dozen, projects or things planned for each section. And then I take that weekly planner and then I put it in my daily planner, and that's how it gets done. So I think about it. I spend an hour every Sunday, hour and a half sometimes, planning my entire week. And then, and a lot of it I take from my quarterly plans or my quarterly goals and my yearly goals. And it's just how it gets done. You have to have a process, or it's almost like navigating a ship without the sails, just going out there and going, well, let's see where we end up. Well, you'll always end up somewhere, but it's not going to be where you want to be, unless you actually have a map. And to me, this is the map.
What did writing books teach you?
The books I wrote are short, and it taught me how to use stories, how to use real life stories in our business, and how to make it interesting. So it taught me, it taught me, first of all, I like short books myself. So I wrote short books because I figured I'm going to write it for somebody like myself. But it did teach me how to use a lot of stories and how to connect stories with principles and how to drive it home. And it also taught me that it's not really that difficult to write a book. I mean, I've always dreaded it because I always thought, man, it must be a really big task to write a book, but it really isn't. It really isn't. You just have to, it's like planning your life. You start out with a blank sheet of paper. First thing you plan is the chapters, and then you fill the chapters with the content.
Now, when you started, why did you start with values? There had to be some experience from business, from observation, or whatever. The first book, why did you write on values?
Well, we're big in values in our business. What we do is, we created values by first of all, bringing our management team in and going through an entire exercise on how to build the values of the organization. And then we said we're going to use these values as leadership principles in our business and how we make decisions, for everything we do. And now, we recite our values before every meeting. Okay. And then we also have these things that we call, positive, we have positive experiences. And we start out our meetings by talking about, what's happened in our life that's positive, both personally and professionally. And a lot of times, the values come out. I mean, people have stories about, how they've had a principle that they learned and how they applied it in this or that and how it worked and how it became a positive experience. So
Now, when you talk about values now, like how many are we talking about? And give me an example of a value and how someone apply that, and that would be relating it to the group. Hey, listen, there's a lot of information online, but there aren't a lot of people who've actually done something. In my case, I've actually built a successful business that's accrued over $5 billion in assets under management and has done well even during trying times. Now, if you want to know exactly how I've done this, go to whitelmwinning.com/webinar now. I've compressed a decade of learning into 5 short weeks just for those of you who want to give yourself an incredible advantage and are tired of waiting and watching others move up.
yeah, so our value, the book I wrote is Values First, and our values in our organization is faith, integrity, respect, service, and teamwork. And what I did is I wrote a chapter on faith, a chapter on integrity, a chapter on respect, chapter on service, and chapter on teamwork. And there's stories that in each one of these values, there's stories of our staff that's actually, like used one of those values in the business and with customers or in their life, and how it's actually transformed the relationship. So this is a book that we send out to every new employee that comes into our company with a welcome letter from me, because I want them and their families to know that these are what we want to be held accountable to. This is what we want everybody to live their lives by in the organization. And that's the whole moral of this book. Is we created it for our own people.
Where
And
did
we
you get
also
where did you get the idea of taking a concept like faith and then to teach it or to train on it through stories? Where did you get that? That because you hear a lot of people, well, but they immediately go to sleep. It's just like blah blah blah. Here's the Boy Scout pledge, or values. Let's go to sleep. Ethics in college is not the most exciting thing, but when you go to stories, now you can have a lot of attention and a lot of people paying attention to what you are wanting to communicate. So, and you said connecting stories with principles. Where did that idea come to you?
um I've always, I mean, reading so many books, I've really enjoyed books that had stories in it. I really didn't like books that just went directly into, A, B, and C, and this is what you got to do. I mean, I
Right.
really connected with stories.
Yeah.
So we purposely, captured a lot of stories from our team interacting with customers. Like I have a story in here on, the first chapter, which is, faith, and it's about Lee and the doctor, right? And it's about a story of one of our plumbers that was in the home, with a couple that the man was having he was going through cancer treatments, and how he connected with them, and how he used something called magic moments that we use, which is a principle that we learned from some training that we took that we did in the house, and how that made the customer feel and how it actually made them feel about our service and our company, and how we ended up winning a customer for life. Now that customer said, I wouldn't have anybody else touch my plumbing except you guys because of the way you made me feel. So stories make people feel a certain way. And I think that that's how we get connected. That's how we find commonality. So, we just use those principles in
And
the books.
you evolved, but now you felt the need to write another book. So your second book was
So we have, my first book was The Secret to Real Wealth. And
okay.
this was the book on how plumbing changed my life, how, plumbing was plan B for me.
Uh-huh.
But it was the best plan B I ever had. I take this plan B over plan A any day. So, and it talks about how that's what we do to our kids. We always,
Right.
want them to, get into certain types of careers and things that we think are good for them. So it talks about how the plumbing industry creates real wealth and how you could retire early and wealthy. So that's the first book. And the second book I wrote was Creating 99 Millionaires. And the third book was Values First. And the
Okay.
reason that's called Values First is because, faith, integrity, respect, service, and teamwork, is our values, so, we called it Values First. And this
Now,
is the one that talks about the principles of leadership.
what is the idea behind creating 99 millionaires?
Creating 99 Millionaires is it's funny. It was back in, I remember it being back in August. I think it was August of 2018, and one of my, one of the guys I work with, asked me, said, John, how many millionaires do you think we've created, is, doing what we're doing? And it was a great question because, I knew of quite a few people that have become wealthy working in our business, salespeople, and some people that were running our branches, that we went off and sold. We sold quite a few branches, for millions of dollars, and they've participated. I've always had my management staff participate in the upside. So I calculated. I said, man, I think, I don't know, but I think it's a handful, maybe a little more than a handful. And he said, you know what, why stop there? And I said, you're right. Let's create 100 millionaires while we're building this business, and let's go ahead and start doing classes. And then that's when we started doing the budgeting classes, and we started giving out books, books about the millionaire next door, and just how compound interest works in your life. Because most of the people that became millionaires didn't do it by earning $1 million in a year. They did it by earning a good living, but by taking that and investing it and making compound interest, one of the 8 wonders in life work for you. So we started teaching those principles, and that's basically what the book talks about. It talks about a story, about us, sitting down at a table with with 99 millionaires, and we're talking about how this all happened, and there's a guy at the table who's waiting the tables, and he's going, wow, that's interesting, and he wants to learn how these guys became wealthy, and then ends up wanting to learn more about the things that we're doing, and joining the movement. So that's what that book is about, and that's how it came about.
That sounds very, very cool. Very, very great idea. And it's organic. It came from, your business, your team, and the idea, it was just like a book that wanted to be written. And it appeared, the idea appeared. And so very exciting when those things happen in your life. John, we've got to go. Thanks so much for spending all the time. Any last word you'd like to pass on to the people listening, and that that a last final word that you'd like to pass on? Anything jump into your mind?
Well, Larry, I want to first thank you for having me on your podcast, and it was a pleasure doing it. And the last thing I'd like to say is, you know, if you want your life to get better, get better. You know, just purposely start reading, and create a habit of learning, and and reading, and being curious about how to get better. The more you invest in yourself, the better life you're going to have. And that's where I want to leave it, because that's what's happened to me.
That is absolutely right on the money. Thanks so much, John. This has been great. If you enjoyed what you've heard and are dead serious about finding out for yourself exactly how this works in the real world, I've taken the most valuable business lessons I've learned over 40 years and put them into something for you to watch. Go to whiteelementwinning.com/webinar now in order to move up as fast as possible. I'm Larry Weidel, and I run the $1 Million Mastermind. Go, go, go.